All right, today we're going to be talking about the journey of a song in a movie trailer and how it gets to the big screen. I'm going to walk you through this very useful infographic that I found on a forum post on a very, very useful forum that I will share later, as well as walk you through a little bit of my session for a trailer that ended up on the big screen. Starts with the movie studio because they know what they're kind of looking for. They have a studio marketing executive or executives, and they are going to reach out to various trailer houses. These are made up of creative directors, producers, and editors, and they are going to be in contact with music supervisors. And this is where I am residing. I am part of this trailer music library or trailer music production house. Now, I am not the music supervisor, but I am a composer who works for a music supervisor, and they work with the trailer houses. We all work together to put a trailer together to send off back to the studio marketing executives. Now, as you can see on this little key up here, trailers are using mainstream songs, score, or a combination of the two, and nowadays it is almost always a combination of the two. So I am being given some sort of song, and if you're lucky you'll get the original stems, but more than likely you will not. You'll be given just a WAV file or maybe some technologically extracted stems. Then you will be adding score to this, your customization, and together they will combine, and that will be good for the trailer house to start working with. Now, you've probably noticed that there's more than one of these little houses down here. Now, this isn't just saying that there's more than one music supervisor working on this. There's more than one trailer house. There's more than one producer, creative directors, everything, composers. You are all competing for a specific trailer. The studio marketing executive is sending out creative briefs to, oftentimes, in my experience, the trailer houses, and the trailer houses are the ones who then contact music supervisors, and then the trailer houses and music supervisors are going to work together to put a trailer together. You might have some back and forth between you two trying to perfect exactly what this music should sound like so that they can start cutting the trailer. And then after that, there might still be some internal revisions that you'll be doing. Now, after you've worked on that for a few days, the trailer houses should be sending that back off to the creative advertising. And then they can give their notes and either approve it or give some feedback that then would be either taken care of by the trailer house, or oftentimes the trailer house is going to reach back to you for some additional stems or just some additional revisions to make the studio marketing executive happy, and then they will continue on down the pipeline with this product. Now, before we move on, I want to stress the importance of working with the music supervisor or music supervisors. These are the people that, if you are getting into trailer music, this is who you need to be in contact with, and oftentimes they are working in a music library. And just for some added context and clarification here, the music library where the music supervisor is working can act as a publisher for your music. And this is a curated music library. This isn't Pond5 or Audio Jungle. This is a smaller, usually kind of boutique curated music library. This is important because just putting your music out there probably isn't enough to start getting any sort of traction. You can go look for and apply for, audition, or just get into contact with a smaller music library run by music supervisors. They're the ones that have access to the trailer houses, to the studio clients, and just a whole bunch of clients and industry contacts. And they're also the ones who understand this business. They're the ones who will get your music through this whole pipeline that we're going to finish up here. So once the trailer is approved by these people, it's going to move on to this red pipeline down here. Now you can see that it says a narrowed list, revisions with vendors and stuff. We've sort of discussed that, but basically they have multiple approved trailers that they like enough to then start showing to testing and focus groups. Now this is something that I was unaware of when I started this, but they need to get public reaction and public feedback. So it might go to these focus groups, they might get feedback, and then it's going to start this kind of process again. So at any given point, by the way, in this process that I've been talking about, especially once it is in the marketing executive's hands, this is kind of where it can drop out. It can get rejected. It could get rejected once it shows to the focus groups, or maybe the marketing executive changes their mind. It can get rejected down any of these checkpoints here. But hopefully it does well in the testing and it moves on to this clearance section. Now, my understanding of this clearance section is that because you're working, as we talked about, with a song, a pre-existing song, and you're adding your score to it, it all is working together and one can't exist without the other. So you need to get clearance on the licensing for the song that was picked. Now, this is another section where if they cannot get the license to use that song, you might begin the process kind of again. Now, it might not be from scratch, but I have had to do several iterations of a similar trailer sound so that you could maybe have options in case some of them get rejected, you're not able to get the license, or if the licenses were rejected and you had to move on to a different artist and a different song. And by the way, in this section, as a composer, this is out of your hands. You kind of lost touch with all this after this section here. This got sent off, and then maybe it did come back, some revisions and stuff, but you won't really be updated directly unless some revisions are requested. However, when you are working with the music library, and when it is a smaller one that you are working one-on-one with the music supervisor, they will be able to give you updates along the way, but they are not being filled in literally minute by minute or anything along this process, and it can take a very long time. So let's say that the clearance went well. It is then going to be shown to some of the filmmakers. So this is where a director might see it. If you worked on a Paul Thomas Anderson trailer, then he might get his hands on it. He might give his thoughts. And again, going back through the process, but maybe not. And it moves on to the studio executives. If it's being distributed by Warner Brothers, they're going to want to get their hands on it and take a look at it. And then after that is where finally, after it's gone through all these hoops, it can end up on the multi-screen, on streaming and in theaters and wherever else the trailer will be shown. And this is what makes the process all worthwhile, because you go sit down in your favorite theater chain with some popcorn and you get to see the finished product for the first time on the big screen. And it is the most motivating thing and makes it all feel worthwhile, because you are going to experience a lot of rejection along this way. Many, many, many more no's than yeses in this line of work. So this covers all the preparedness meets opportunity, the luck aspect of this part. However, working on, the music itself, that is the creative aspect of it. But so much stuff around here is dependent on so many more factors. You don't know who else is going to be working on this and what the quality of their work will be and how people are feeling that day, etc., how it tests with the focus groups, all that. So there's just so many factors that are out of your control. It's better to relax, focus on what you are good at, which is writing music. So speaking of which, we can hop into this session. This is a session for a trailer that did successfully get placed and play in theaters. And this is the first one that actually got that far. I've gotten placements that are just playing on YouTube, that are just playing on little TV ads or social media, but this is the first one that went all the way. And that's after about 20 or so projects that I worked on. They weren't all rejections, but most of them were. If you get one trailer out of 20 projects you work on, or 2 out of the 20 that you work on, that means that you had a fantastic year. You are doing nothing wrong. That's what is to be expected, and that should be motivation enough for you to keep going. You are absolutely on the right path. Now, what we would call this whole musical process is trailerization, where you're taking a song and you're adding a lot of your music to it and enhancing it. As Yappa on VI Control, this forum, would define it, they say, trailerizing means taking an existing piece of music, cutting it into a 3-act structure, adding risers, drums, and enhancing elements so it fits the often larger scale of trailers. And that is a pretty much spot-on definition. That's what you are going to be expected to do most of the time. There's an opening, which is just my custom music, which then has a break point, which is very important, and quickly goes into this act 2 that starts to introduce the song stems down here. This pink stuff here, this is what I colored the song stems, and everything else around them is stuff that I added. So the song starts to become introduced, and then you start adding in more of your layers with some more layers of the song, and then it starts to break out by the end of the second act. Tons of layers are added in, and it's building and building up to then have another quick breakpoint and go into the back end, the Act 3, where it's big, it's in your face, not always, but relative to the rest of it, it is much more upfront. Even if it is a more subdued back end, this should still be the biggest section that you're working on. And so here originally you can see that I had all these song stems, they're grayed out. And so the music was 100% mine up until the very end when it was just some vocals coming in. Now, something cool is that a lot of times the editors will play and have fun with your stems. And so what they ended up doing here is layering in more of those vocals in this back end, and it worked great. They had fun with it, and that's the importance of what I mentioned, these breakpoints, these edit points. That's super important, and that's often done with percussion and effects. Usually stuff will build up, you'll have some risers, you'll have some effects they'll hit, there'll be a break, you can go all the way to silence, or you can have it just go to a pad or something like hanging over, connecting the two sections, but something small that they could mute if they want. You don't want to hand them just a 2.5 minute wall of sound. There needs to be something that they can play around with so that they can mute layers, they can solo layers, and they can stack layers and switch things up around depending on what they need without necessarily immediately having to go ask you to start revising and sending extra stems. So generally between the acts, there will be those edit points, and then also within those acts, it's usually divided up where you could have some other moments either going to silence or going down to smaller bits of percussion or something, because if you watch some trailers, you'll start noticing how many points during it there's either no music playing or there's just a little bit of background like underscore kind of riffing along. Now, I'm purposely being careful to not just play this whole thing and play giant sections of it, but I can solo out and you can hear the importance of just this, the percussion, the rhythmic aspect of it, because right away it's going to have a trailer-like sound. Okay, it's got big, thick, punchy percussion. This is just the percussion and some of the effects, and you can hear how important that stuff is. As well as here, if we unmute some of these transition effects, you can hear these builds like this. That, with no other musicality besides effects and percussion, you can hear that it has a trailer sound. And that's a lot of what you should invest in and invest in your money and time into understanding and getting good at using, because you can get really creative with those, but that's more of just, this is the standard that you're going to have to get used to using, and then tons of, honestly, infinite creativity can exist within that and outside of that, but there is going to have to be this trailer sound in the stuff and trailer structures, some trailer-like formula in your creative process. Now, my little bit of insider knowledge, I guess, is to go to Keep Forest, and they have some fantastic libraries that will get you started and honestly will just stick with you forever. On this project, I'm using Evolution Devastator Breakout Pro from Keep Forest, as well as this great percussion library from them called Ferrum. On top of that, I used a lot of Damage 2 for organic layers. On top of that, I have transition effects from SoundPaint, from Damage, from Tramery, and then down here, there's lots of these hits and booms, mostly from Keep Forest again. Now, outside of all that, you see that I do have these bass layers, I have guitars, I have synths, keys up top. There's a lot of stuff that you can then have fun with and get creative with on top of those layers, but a lot of the backbone of these trailers come from, again, percussion effects. Those are going to be your bread and butter for a lot of this trailer sound. And finally, we're hopping over to the trailer post that I was talking about. I will link this in the description. This is written by a member of VI Control named Yappa. VI Control is a wonderful forum that you should include in all your Google searches. So if you're searching for a specific question that's related to sample libraries, trailer music, honestly just like more detailed or nerdy music technology knowledge, put VI Control at the end of whatever you're searching for, at the beginning of what you're searching for, or just use Google to search specifically that forum. This is where all the important questions I have gotten answered. And this is where you'll honestly see more industry professional transparency than anywhere else I've found. You can literally have conversations with people who are doing work that you would like to be a part of. Now, I'm not going to summarize this forum post. It's something that you should just dive into, and it was the inspiration for me and motivation for me, but also the inspiration for wanting to share further details in this video. They're very transparent. They explain who they are. They've been in the industry a lot longer than I have. They discuss pricing. They discuss the inner workings, a lot of terminology that you want to get to know. They discuss deadlines and how you do have to write fast. It can be very, very stressful at times. Very, very stressful. You can feel like you're drowning for a whole weekend, but you adapt. You do get used to this, and there are periods where you get to recover, and then eventually, after enough time working on this, you see your work actually come to fruition. And again, it's like that's what makes it worth it. There's a wonderful section down here after you've read the first part where they talk about some trailers that they've worked on that got rejected. They did not place. And you can see they're listing Batman, Star Wars, lots of Marvel movies, Jurassic World, all this stuff. And this is from a few years ago. And so they have even more now that they could name drop for stuff that they've been rejected by. And most likely they're just listing the biggest movies. As they mention in here, if you are getting 1 or 2 big trailers a year, you are doing a good job. You are on the right path. I'd say that 1 or 2 out of every 20 opportunities you get, if those are following through, whether it's a big placement or something smaller, I think you are doing a good job. And it's not going to be consistent like that. There will be better times and worse times, So you might get a few placements back to back, followed by a very, very long dry spell. But that's just how it works. And honestly, all you can do is just keep trying your best and keep getting better and better at writing this trailer music and writing music in general, and improving your production, which is a giant part of it that it's hard to summarize exactly what that means, but it literally just means that you deliver better quality sound each and every project you work on. And down here, you will also have access to this infographic that I walked you through earlier. So go get that, download it. It's a really high quality image, and you can just go through, and it's wonderful to see this pipeline, because when I first saw this forum post and I first saw this infographic, I immediately just saved this to my desktop. I revisited this forum post multiple times, and I'd do it while I was working, because it just feels so nice to see someone successful, talk about their experience, talk about these nitty-gritty details that feel kind of like a mystery at first, and just have a lot of transparency. So thank you so much, Yappa, whoever you are. I am a fan of the knowledge that you shared. So that's kind of the gist of this video, and to wrap things up, I just want to reiterate again that you need to find some trailer music libraries, or just music libraries run by music supervisors who know what they're doing, are passionate about what they're doing, work one-on-one with you, could possibly hire you, that you could audition for and get to know and work with to produce like the best music you can. And then you can start working with the trailer houses and music supervisors to create a great product that can get sent out, which could drip, drip, drip down the pipeline all the way to the big screen at the bottom. Every project you work on is practice, as well as a potential trailer placement. So that brings us to a close of the journey of a song in a movie trailer. I hope this has been helpful. Take some of what I said with a grain of salt. I just wanted to share this because this is the kind of murky, mysterious aspect of this that I think a lot of people might just miss, as I missed before I really started to get things moving. So if you were looking at this as a way to start, or you're procrastinating and just found this video, I hope that it helped and motivated you and maybe inspired you to continue going on.